Hey guys, Trey here with CamWood Bats, and I'm joined today by my hitting coach, Frank Gregory. Frank is the guy that taught me literally everything that I know about hitting and about baseball. You know, just a little bit of a backstory before we started working together. I don't know if you knew this, but I had a batting average of 180.
Oh, I
junior
knew
year
it.
of high school.
I knew it.
Yeah, so before we started working together, my batting average was 180, just finished the season. And, you know, Frank, him and I started working together, and just about 2 weeks after we started working together, hitting in the cages every day, we actually had a game against Bradwell. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but, you know, just 2 weeks after I started working with him, I hit my first high school home run. So, you know, at that point, I knew that this guy knew what he was talking about. I already started seeing the results. So I really just took it to the next step and committed to it. And, you know, he was my hitting coach for the rest of my career.
Well, you got to remember, I saw you and I said, I was looking for the biggest challenge. Because you always look for the challenge.
Yeah.
Who's the worst guy out there? Who can you see? And since you were 6'4" and bad, it really helped out. I mean, it stood out to me.
I had potential, though.
You had potential. That's what I saw. You know, it's funny. A lot of people talk about hitters and these scouts that say, well, I don't like this guy's swing, or I don't like that. And I said, I don't understand why you're even worried about that. What you want to do is look for a guy who has potential, and you got to teach him to swing.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys have talent that people turn away from because they don't have the proper swing. I don't understand what the coaches are down there for if they're not going to teach the guy how to hit. You know?
Sure. So just introduce yourself and give a little bit of your backstory and how you learned the hitting that you teach.
Well, like I've talked to you obviously before, and I was real fortunate back in the 70s. I lived near Palm Springs, California, where at that time the California Angels was spring training, and spring training was done a lot different back then. That's when they didn't have the minor leagues come in there. They would invite certain minor league players, and I happen to know a minor league player and was good friends with him. So through that, I used to get to go to spring training for a few years and basically just help out, shag balls, and do that type of thing as a kid at 14 years old would do. And they had an all-star cast of players. They had Reggie Jackson, Fred Lynn, who was American League MVP, Rookie of the Year with the Red Sox, had just come in. And so I go down there and I'd watch BP. And BP was in a cage, kind of like most of you guys have for your kids in the backyard. Some 4x4s, some rope, and a net. That was it. You had two of them with a couple of iron mics down there on the end. And I would watch Jackson hit, I would watch Lynn hit, and then this guy Rod Carew would hit. And Rod Carew had just come over from the Minnesota Twins. He had won 7 consecutive batting titles. And I'd watch his bat path. I was always fascinated with hitting. And I'd see that bat path, and I'd see Jackson and those guys, they'd be hitting in the top of the net or rolling over into the ground. And Carew was almost like a work of art. The way the bat would just effortlessly go through what, of course, now I understand as a hitting zone, and just drive the ball the opposite way. And he just wear a hole up there in that opposite field corner. And even at that age, I remember telling myself, you know, I don't know what the heck that is, but I like it, and that's what I'm going to learn how to do. And so I studied Carew, which in my opinion is one of the greatest hitters of all time. You can argue both ways. Tony Gwynn is another guy who same way of hitting, understood what a bat path is and how to hit, and won 8 batting titles. So you throw those two together, that's pretty good company. And so that's basically what started me on my path of hitting.
Well, speaking of Tony Gwynn, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video that Tony Gwynn actually did for us endorsing our product. And everyone always says, how much did you pay Tony to do that video? And I promise we didn't pay anything. I said we never paid for an endorsement.
Exactly.
So tell the story of how you met Tony Gwynn, because a lot of people don't know this story.
Well, first of all, I like to go to say that Tony Gwynn, what you see is really what you get. Tony is a genuinely one of the nicest people that you will ever meet. And the way it came about was he was coaching at San Diego State, and his team was struggling. They were hitting 232 with 3 home runs halfway through the year. And they had just got back from playing Arkansas, University of Arkansas, and he saw our bats at University of Arkansas. So he called me up and started talking hitting with me. And I'll never forget the thing we talk about it now is, you don't throw a barrel at the ball. Even though everybody's going to argue with me, I'll take Tony Gwynn's side on this and Rod Crew's side on this any day. And he says, it's funny because he has that voice. And he says, Frank, I can't get my guys to stop throwing the barrel at the ball. He says, they think, though, if they don't throw the barrel at the ball, they'll get jammed. And I said, well, that's what's jamming them. And he goes, exactly. So I got to talk to him, talking about some drills that we do and everything. So he had me go out there with the bats and work with those guys and show them some drills and show them some things. And the very first game, they played Long Beach State. I want to say this was in 2013, 2012, 2013. I not exactly know when. But they went out that day, and I think they pounded out 14 to 16 hits. And all but 2 of them were back up the middle and the other way. And they ended up hitting 293 the rest of the season and it hit 10 home runs from there on out. So they more than tripled their home run production and raised their average 60, I think it was 67 points in the middle of the season, which is pretty remarkable when you really think about it. And then I would like to say, because he's one of the few guys, I'll never forget him calling me up and telling me, Frank, I really appreciate everything you've done for me. So now, Tony didn't ever pay for anything. None of these guys do. They believe in our product, they use it, and they appreciate somebody out there trying to teach hitting, Yeah,
I know Tony Gwynn, like I said, I watched a video of him on YouTube, and he said, he's going to blow your mind whenever he says this, but you don't swing the bat, you swing the knob.
Right, you take the knob of the ball. You don't take the barrel of the ball, you take the knob of the ball. Take the knob of the ball, take the hands of the ball, and the barrel will follow. And it's funny because people argue with us all the time, not just us, but about these different ways of hitting. I want people to understand that the 2 guys that I'm linked to is Rod Crew and Tony Gwynn. Well, those 2 guys, between the 2 of them, won 15 batting titles.
Which means they led the league, the MLB in batting average, 15 separate seasons.
15 separate seasons out of their 38 that they played together. They both had 19-year careers. Now, in that span of 38 years, I did the math, and it's somewhere around 7,500 hitters. Now, obviously, a lot of them did multiple seasons, but there was 7,500 other chances for other players to win those batting titles, and those guys won it 40% of the time, just those 2 guys. And I hear people want to argue with their way of hitting, and I just don't know how you argue with somebody who is that dominant in what they've done. You just can't. Another interesting thing about Tony we'll hit on real quick is, if you watch a Major League Baseball game, you're going to have 3 broken bats per game. You may not see the bats break, but if you're there, you can hear the crack, and most people can understand when a bat broke. So if you divide that by 18, that tells you that somebody breaks a bat on average every 6 games.
Yeah.
Well, Tony played an entire Major League season without breaking his bat, which goes to show you that he's keeping the bat on path and not putting the bat in a bad position in order to break or hit off the end of the bat or get jammed.
Yep, and that's why we teach, if you just can drive your hands inside the ball, your bat and your barrel is never going to get in the position to roll over, get jammed.
It can't.
So on and so forth.
It's impossible. I try to, one analogy I use, I don't know how many people listen, but it's like if you're driving down the road, if you stay in your lane, you're not going to get hit head on. You go on the other side of the lane, you can get head on. Same thing. If you take that barrel and take it to the other side of that path that ball's coming in, and your timing is not exact, you will get jammed. And one quick hitting lesson or to really understand this is a good hitter can keep that bat on path for about 18 inches.
Yeah.
So a ball coming in at 90 miles an hour and a bat going back at 90 miles an hour, you only have 0.004 of a second for those two objects to intersect each other, to run into each other in that area. Anything you're doing to cut that 18 inches down to 12 or 6, you could do simple math, you're cutting your opportunity down to 66% or 33% of a guy like a Crew or a Gwynn. That's the difference.
I say you brought up a good point, and I make sure everyone understands this. You know, with the drills that we teach and our hitting philosophy, I didn't come up with this. You didn't come up with this.
I didn't come up with it. No.
So we learned this stuff from guys like Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn, who are the best hitters that they're. I mean, they're one of the best hitters in the history of baseball.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, they didn't hit for a lot of power. Well, there's a real simple explanation for that. They weren't big guys. If you look at Cabrera, who was with the Tigers, and I guess still is, isn't he? And won a batting. Didn't he win the Triple Crown?
He won the Triple Crown, yeah.
Triple Crown, which hadn't been done in probably 40 years. He's a lot like a Gwynn and a lot like a Crew who understands bat path and take the ball the other way. And the reason why you're taking the ball the other way isn't just to take the ball the other way. It puts the bat in a position to do everything. And
because you're staying inside the ball.
You're staying inside the ball. And the reason why he hit more home runs than a Gwynn or a Crew was he was just a bigger guy. So the balls that Crew and Gwynn was hitting off the wall, he was putting, 20 feet, 30 feet into the stands. And it's really quite that simple. They're still the same hitter. If you told Crew to do this launch angle stuff and all that, he would have hit probably the same amount of home runs, but he would have hit 70 points less.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Cabrera. If you told Cabrera to go launch angle, his home runs would probably be the same. His average would just dropped.
It's actually funny because MLB Network did a one-on-one with Miguel Cabrera, and they asked him about launch angle, and he was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. Why would I do launch angle?
Why would you
anything up in the zone? I'm going to swing and miss every time.
You're
creating that loop
absolutely.
in your swing.
There's no way. Anytime a guy swings, I want you guys to pay attention to this. If you watch this, watch a Major League game today, and keep counting how many times on a fastball do the guys swing over it or under it. And I guarantee you, it's always under it.
Yep.
Because they've created a loop in their swing. Their timing is usually pretty good on a fastball, but because they're here and the ball's here, they go under it. And then on a changeup, it's just the opposite. Because the ball is dropping down, slowing up and dropping down, they're out front where their bat has left the zone, so they go over it every single time.
That's because they're trying to lift the ball in the air.
Trying to lift the ball.
That's all it is.
And think about that. If you're trying to lift the ball up in the air, your bat is coming up. You're not creating any backspin. If you cut through the ball on a line, now you're going to hit the ball with the maximum force and create backspin that will cut through the air.
Exactly.
So this whole, and the funny thing about launching, we talked about this years ago when we were getting together because everybody's talking about rotational hitting. Yeah. These things come along every 4 or 5 years, and everybody wants to create this new way of hitting, and which is just the most ridiculous thing in the world because you're just not going to change hitting. It's people always say, I really love your philosophy in hitting, and I said, well, it's not a philosophy, it's a fact. If you have an object coming in, the best way to meet that object is to match that line coming back in. It's just as simple as that. Now, if you want to tell me how you can get there faster or quicker, I'm willing to listen. Yeah. Because there are ways, and there are guys out there who teach things, and they do a great job of getting guys on that path and getting them quick.
Yeah.
But you can't change that path. All I know is if there was a nuclear weapon coming at me, coming overseas, I'm hoping our military is going to shoot that rocket back in the same path and not try to hit it from a different angle and maximize the opportunity to collide with that missile that's coming at us. It's the same thing. It's funny how young kids get it. When I do camps, I do these camps and you'll have 8-year-olds, and I just set them around and I say, listen, if there's a guy at that pitcher's mound and he's going to run to home plate and I tell you to go tackle him, is it best to run right at him and tackle him or go in a big circle and hope you hit him?
Yeah.
And every one of them says you go right at him. I said, well, that's hitting. It's that simple, Yeah.
So Alex Rodriguez actually did a video where, he talked about the quickest line from A to B is a straight line, obviously.
Straight line.
So whenever he made that video, he was talking about hitting, how you want to take the knob from point A to point B on a straight line.
Right.
And he got a ton of flack for it.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he's swinging down at the ball. But
Right.
like I said, I tell people all the time, you never want to swing down at the ball.
You're not swinging down. You're taking your
hands.
You're taking the hands down the ball. If you learn to relax your hands, the bat will automatically drop and get into a position at about 7%, which is 7 degrees, which is where the pitch is coming down from the pitcher at about a 7-degree angle.
Yep.
Ted Williams actually talked about this years ago, and I'm not going to argue with Ted Williams. You know, a lot of people, like I say, I had somebody going back to Tony Gwynn. This is one of the funniest things. I had a guy tell me one time, and I've gotten to where I was really linked with Tony, and I really understood Tony. And matter of fact, I did a video with one of Tony's coaches in San Diego, who coached with Tony for 7 years and understood how dedicated Tony was at video and all this. And I was telling somebody about how Tony Gwynn and what he talked about, how he did it. And the guy looked at me and says, well, that's what he thought he was doing, but he really wasn't doing that. And I was
that's everyone's argument now.
So you really think that Tony Gwynn
Real versus feel is what they say.
didn't understand what he was actually doing?
Yeah.
He is one of the most outrageous. You know, I've gotten to be good buddies with his son Anthony, and that's somebody you need to have on one of your podcasts one time. I think that would be a good show for you.
Yeah, for sure.